Thanks everyone for watching. It's a bit weird not to see anyone, well, except for the people in the room. Yeah, we have a plenary ahead, a longer plenary than we used to have in the past month. And of course, there's quite a lot of very exciting topics on the agenda. One of the things that we're going to discuss is the matter of the European Council meeting up also this week. And as we all know, they're going to debate the recovery plan, well, also some Brexit, but to that we come later. From our point of view, it's very important that the heads of state and government finally come together and make an agreement. As you all know, we already had quite a number of meetings of the heads of state and government and no agreement yet. However, time is running fast. We're a month into this crisis and we finally need to have that European signal of we stand all together and we need to move ahead together, and we actually are able and willing to put some money behind that talk as well. So I guess we're all not expecting that this will come to a conclusion, but I really think they should come to a conclusion or at least agree on making it very soon to have that conclusion, because again, the longer we wait, the more difficult, the more grave the situation will get overall. Okay, it seems I'm audible. Other things that we're going to discuss during the week are, among others, of course, including, for example, the Schengen situation. As you all know, it has been a very difficult situation in the beginning of the crisis when all the member states basically just closed the borders as they wanted without any clear criteria, without any clear reasoning behind that. Now we see a bit of a more coordination when it comes to reopening things, however, not a full. There's quite a couple of member states where it's, who have not followed the general agreement. And of course, we always need to monitor closely a situation on both sides of a border. However, however, the virus does not get stopped by a border. So any measures to counter the pandemic should always be cross-border. And we have seen the huge problems this border closure brought to not just the transport of goods, which of course is important, but also it has disrupted family lives, work lives, so many people's lives, and we finally need to get over that again wherever possible. Wherever and whenever possible. Another issue that we are very happy that we've been able to put it on the agenda is the whole issue of deforestation in the Amazon. As you know, that among other terrible things happening in Brazil, the pandemic has been used as a thing to hide behind when Bolsonaro allowed more deforestation. That is a huge, huge problem that affects all of us, because the Amazon is one of the biggest carbon sinks overall in the world, and we need to make sure that we save that forest and we save that habitat for future generations, and that's why we wanted to bring it to the attention also in Europe, and we're going to do that. Another very important debate that we're having is the one on racism. Yes, we want to debate the death of George Floyd, but we also want to raise attention to racism being a huge problem here in Europe, in the European Union, in the member states. And it's not enough to to look at how terrible the situation is elsewhere. We also need to confront the racism that we encounter here in the European Union. We need to do something about it, and it's high time that we stepped up the efforts, because it's unbearable that the amount of racism and discrimination based on that we still see today. Over to you.
Thank you. Well, welcome everyone, at least those of you who have connected. I just want to first mention Brexit. So you will have a resolution of the Parliament that basically restates the negotiating position of the European Union, maybe in a bit more detail this time, because, well, almost every committee submitted a detailed view as to what we want to achieve. But my honest feeling is that we are not going to have a deal with the British government, simply because there is no political will on the side of the British government to have a deal. And I think we should take the expressions of the leader and the representatives of the British government seriously. I remember David Frost coming to Brussels early in January saying that the whole point of Brexit was for the United Kingdom no longer to have to apply EU legislation or to be bound by rulings of the ECJ. And that means that if that is the whole point, well, then indeed that precludes a very close relationship with the European Union, especially in terms of trade. And I think this is the basic disagreement that we have. On the one hand, the European Union does want, and rightfully so, to preserve the integrity of its single market. And on the other hand, you have a United Kingdom which wants, well, at least the government of the United Kingdom that wants to sever all ties with the European Union, and you can't reconcile that. And I would say that you might still think that there are people within the Tory party who want a deal, a close relationship with the European Union, and that means a soft Brexit. But let's face it, these people are not in positions to set the government line. Others are. And I would say that a few weeks ago, the Prime Minister had a perfect occasion to fire Dominic Cummings. He chose not to. And that tells you who is calling the shots in the Tory party. So I think that now our energy should be mostly directed at preparing for the scenario that I believe will become the real one, that is a no-deal Brexit at the end of the year. Of course, one country will be severely affected by that, and that is the Republic of Ireland. Now, I'm glad that indeed we have put into the withdrawal agreement provisions that will indeed preserve the Good Friday Agreement and the all-island economy. Frankly speaking, I hope that we can indeed count on the British government to abide by its obligations there. They have stated that they would. And let's take their word for it. And indeed, that means a special status for Northern Ireland, but that is a fact of life. So in a way, the United Kingdom will be a differentiated place, as we have already seen with the devolutions. And speaking of Ireland, I just want to say how happy I am that indeed the Irish Greens have been able to strike a government agreement with Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil, the duopoly that so far ruled the Republic of Ireland. If you look at this agreement, you can clearly see a green imprint in it, and I'm happy about that. Now, of course, this is a draft agreement. I know that the TDs have approved it, but our internal democracy is such that 2/3 of our members in Ireland must approve the coalition agreement. I think now is the time for responsibility. I'm glad that the Green leadership took up responsibility and negotiated a very good agreement. And I sincerely hope that our membership will support that agreement so that we can have a fifth government in the European Council that includes the Greens as participants. And I hope more to come, because indeed now is the time when we need a recovery plan that is totally geared towards a Green Deal for Europe. And well, time is running, so indeed this should be our focus. And I do believe that, well, there's no better guarantee of having a Green Deal when the Greens are part of the executive.
Thanks a lot. We'll go to questions. You both
Yeah.
need to put your headsets on to hear the question. So
Yeah.
the first question will be from Thomas from Swiss TV.
Yes, hello, Thomas Miglierina, Swiss Television. I'd like to pick your brain on the forthcoming summit. We know that is not going to be conclusive, but do you think it's going to be constructive conclusive or not? What do you hear? Thank you very much.
Shall I answer? We don't have English, I guess? Or like the original or something? Okay, whatever. Because it's nice to hear a translation, but of course
Yeah,
it's nicer
exactly.
to hear the original.
What is this?
So on the European Council, I do think that we have moved a big step forward when it comes to reaching a solution, and the big step forward in that was the Macron-Merkel deal. We really have to say that. Of course, it's not entirely a green program, what they have suggested, neither is the Commission plan. We have proposed our own green plan. But it is a very important step forward that Germany has recognized that they can no longer just stand in the corner and say no to everything, that they have to play an active role, a constructive role, and that is a very important step forward. There are other states that said they are still on the no side. Of course, we all know that part of that is simply a negotiation strategy. And we also all know that usually it takes quite a long time in the European Union, but it's just that we don't have a lot of time. We need to act now. We need to get this thing going in order to make sure that we can counter this very deep crisis. So I just wish that for once it wouldn't be the haggling forever and over many councils, but there would be a decisive step forward, because I think that's exactly what it needs right now. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed.
Okay, thank you. And now we have a question from Catherine Fiora, EU reporter.
Hi. Hello. I have a question, firstly, on for Monsieur Lambert on the UK situation. Yesterday the commissioner, sorry, the president of the European Commission, in the joint statement, they said that they were looking for any sort of agreement and to review the principles underlying what this sort of agreement would be with the UK. I mean, to what lengths do you think the EU side and indeed the European Parliament should go to meet this sort of revision of principles?
I don't understand the question. But anyway, so I think that, as I said, the expectations of the United Kingdom and of the European Union have become totally divergent. There was an agreement in the political declaration, and basically what the United Kingdom government has done since the withdrawal agreement has come into force is basically to say that after all, it no longer is interested in what is in the political declaration. So yes, the political declaration is a non-binding document. So of course there's no legal consequences to that, but obviously the common intentions that were there when we negotiated with Theresa May's government are no longer there, and no amount of sweet words will change that reality.
Okay, Catherine? Yeah. Cool. Then we have a question from Federico Bianchi.
Hi. Oh. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so my question is it's not about the upcoming session. It's actually about the municipal elections in France on June 28th. And I would like to get your opinion, both of Philippe and Ska, on these new forming alliance coalitions between the Greens and the left in many different French cities. Which is something a little bit unusual that it's happening in Europe. And what do you think? Do you think they can set a model? Do you think, have you thought about those?
You want to start? Well, first, the first round of the municipal elections was very promising for the Greens, and not just in small cities, but in big cities. I mean, of course, Anne Hidalgo in Paris kept her leadership. There's no question about that. But if you look at the second biggest, the third biggest, the fourth biggest, the fifth biggest cities in France, the Greens are very well positioned. What is now crucial is that we transform these promising results into success. And if you want success, what you need is rassemblement, is the ability to bring people together. I would say that the best prototype of that has been achieved by Éric Piolle in Grenoble, when he was able to basically bring a coalition for change to Grenoble. That did not include, by the way, the socialists, because the socialists are more part of conservatism in that city. And that alliance has been successful for a first term, and I'm confident it will be reinstated for a second 6-year term. Now, we are trying to multiply these things across France. In Marseille, we have to recognize that actually it was not the Greens leading the most successful list on the progressive side, but we are joining that list. Likewise, we try to do that all over the place because what we want is a successful alliance that is an alliance that is able to become the executive for the next 6 years. And if you look at the alliances on the ground, these are, I would say, transformational alliances. And indeed, many troops on the ground from the Greens and the left can see eye to eye at what needs to be done in those various cities. So I also note, and that I think also gives you maybe the reason, is that whatever Emmanuel Macron may have said in order to get elected, that he was both left and right or neither left nor right, actually 87% of the alliances that La République En Marche is doing in France are alliance with the right in order to conserve precisely the bastions of municipal government by the right wing. And that shows you where Macron is investing his political capital. He has made a choice, and I respect that choice, but so that idea that actually, left and right was no longer relevant, that basically it was all the same thing, this was more a marketing gimmick used by Macron to get elected, but now he's been showing his true colors ever since he started governing. And interestingly, he's saying that now he's taken the lesson from the COVID pandemic. And he was speaking about resilience, about the green transition, etc. And now what does he say? Well, I will not change direction, and we have to work more to earn more. Who said that before? Well, that was a certain Sarkozy, who was not precisely, I think, the last left-wing president of France.
And the only thing I maybe want to add is that, Grenoble is one example how this is not a totally new phenomenon. I think not just in France, but all over Europe and probably beyond, Greens have been looking for working together with other forces whenever it's possible. Sometimes it's not possible, or sometimes it, of course, also depends on the electoral system, but it's not like this is something that, all of a sudden happened and it's a totally new thing. I think we have already gathered quite some experience in that.
Okay, we have a follow-up question from Catherine.
Okay.
Actually, it's not a follow-up, it's on a different issue. Earlier this year, Olaf published a press release having carried out an investigation into some MEPs, and they found fraud. But when I contacted Olaf, and then when I contacted the European Parliament, nobody was able to tell me the name of these MEPs. If an organisation that like Olaf finds fraud, surely, I just want to know what the position of the Green Party is. Would you expect those MEPs to be named and shamed?
Well, investigation first and then conclusions. There's a presumption of innocence, and anyway, we have to have due process. So that we are on the strict side as far as parliamentary ethics are concerned, but then again, we also insist on due process. And so I'm not aware of these investigations, and I believe Olaf should be free to do its work up until they can come to conclusions. And if people have to be shamed, they will.
Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Question? Yeah.
Oh, you have another question? Okay. Go ahead, Catherine.
The investigation is complete?
I could be. I don't know.
I think we don't know about these cases, so it's very difficult to comment on those specific things. But in general, it stands what Philippe has said, that we are very much on the strict side when it comes to fighting fraud and corruption. also inside the institutions. That's very important. We have always been calling for a anti-corruption report for all member states, but also for the EU institutions. That's indeed a very important part because we're talking about public money here. And of course, investigations need to happen, and this will need to be followed up by Olaf, but it's very difficult to comment on a specific case when we don't know, but maybe you can send us the details.
Okay. Well, I think we have no more questions. So
Okay.
thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.
Thank you.